This is the Momentum Podcast. I'm Alex Sharfin, and this is the Momentum Podcast, made for empire builders, game changers, trailblazers, shot takers, record breakers, world makers, and creators of all kinds. Those among us who can't turn it off and don't know why anyone would want to. We challenge complacency, destroy apathy, and we are obsessed with creating momentum so we can roll over bureaucracy and make our greatest contribution. Sure, we pay attention to their rules, but only so that we can bend them, break them, then rewrite them around our own will. We don't accept our destiny, we define it. We don't understand defeat because you only lose if you stop, and we don't know how. While the rest of the world strives for average and clings desperately to the status quo, we are the minority, the few, who are willing to hallucinate there could be a better future. And instead of just daydreaming of what could be, we endure the vulnerability and exposure it takes to make it real. We are the evolutionary hunters, clearly the most important people in the world, because entrepreneurs are the only source of consistent, positive human evolution, and we always will be.
Awesome. Welcome back to the Momentum Podcast, everybody. My name is Eddie Kirk, and I'm going to be hosting the podcast today because we have a really special episode planned here. I'm joined by Hayley Hart, who is our Director of Operations in our company, and Deanna Pecina, who is the head of our content and coaching department. And the reason we wanted to do this episode is to kind of highlight how the leadership in our organization has responded to the massive changes that have taken place over the last few months. Alex has talked at length about what it takes to not only survive in this market, but also to thrive and continue to move forward and put yourself and your business into momentum. And this episode is going to give you perspective on what our leadership team has done to not only support Alex and Katie, but also keep our company in growth mode in spite of the massive amount of constraint that happened, especially early on. And so Hayley and Deanna, thank you for joining me and doing this. Let's start with you, Hayley. So let's talk about your role and kind of what things were like for you in those first few days when you saw everything was changing very rapidly and what the market was doing. And for our memberships, let's talk about your role, what you observed.
Well, I think as a director of operations, it's really important and critical for me to be involved in everything that's happening and also the stability of the company in and of itself. So that requires me to be involved in understanding what's happening in the departments, the company as a whole, the changes, the shifts that we're making. So when the crisis hit, it was really important for me, Katie, and Alex to be in constant communication about our team members and their stability and what's happening with them emotionally, but then also our company as a whole and what our financials are looking at and where our growth is looking at and what our trajectory is looking at so that we are able to pivot quickly. It's also super critical that in this company, my position is that I'm helping the CEO getting out of overwhelm as quickly as possible and helping stabilize whatever it is that's happening, whether that be a crisis or some other situation that's going on. So during turbulent times, the CEO and also Katie, so Alex and Katie both really needed my support more than ever to be able to get information quickly, make decisions quickly.
So let's talk about just really briefly kind of your mentality, the kind of mantra that you took up in terms of helping support Alex and Katie in a leadership role in the company. What was kind of your mentality? What did you bring to the table there?
Well, I like to follow our process, which is analyze, prioritize, commit, execute, and renew. And I use that with a variety of things that we do, but this is really important in this particular time frame. So the first thing is understanding what areas they needed support in. And so that comes with analyzing, understanding where our business is at right now really, really quickly, understanding any shifts or changes that need to be made really quickly. And then being able to make those decisions appropriately and prioritizing what's most important immediately, what we can push, what we need to wait on, and then doing those things. So really just being there as someone, not only that Alex and Katie can lean on in terms of questions or back and forth or making decisions, but also to help bring information as fast as I can and then help execute the priorities that we're wanting to handle. And then stabilizing everything in the process of it. So making sure that everyone understands what's happening, why it's happening, and that morale is up.
Awesome. So Deanna, let's talk about the same thing. So what were things like for you early on, and what were you seeing with our members in particular? Because you work very hands-on and very closely with all of the members in our coaching programs. And so because you work so closely with them and these like really incredible entrepreneurs and these amazing businesses, what were you seeing in those early days of everything that was happening?
So, it's interesting, Eddie, because we've had some members where, for example, in my mind, the day that stands out, it's Friday the 13th. That's when for us as a team, I can remember like that was when it, not that it hadn't been on the radar and that we weren't aware of it, but that for us as a team was the day I felt like it became real. That was the day where Alex told us as a team to make sure that we'd gone to the grocery store. You know what I mean? That's a rare thing to have something like that happen. And so I would say to you that, what we were feeling as a team is very similar to what all of our members were feeling as teams. We have such a wide array of members in our programs, but we have some members that were severely impacted by the quarantine. For example, dental practices. If you can't open, you can't open. And, dental practice is not something that you can do. You can't do that virtually. Like you need to get your teeth cleaned in person. So there were a lot of real issues that came up. And, there were people who were having to make really hard decisions about making a complete and total pivot. We have some members that did that had businesses that were fully up and running. And that as a result of everything that happened, made a complete pivot in their offers and what they were doing. And so, for me, as a coach, one of our core tenets is that we're the example of our content. So 9 times out of 10, when we're doing something as a team, I'm not only looking at it through the lens of being a member on this team, but how can I catalog this so that when I run into a member who's experiencing something similar, that I have something to anchor it to. So I really try to observe and watch Alex and Katie and Hayley even, so that when I'm on calls with members that I can relay those processes to them and let them know how we approach situations.
What would you say was the most important thing for your role to either model or to provide for our members in that time of like really early on when things were changing so rapidly?
I think the biggest thing that we did as a company was that we listened. We listened to what people were telling us. We listened to the problems that people were having. We listened to the people that were coming to us saying, hey, I want to work with you. And so much of it is providing space for people to be able to just simply process what they're going through and letting them know that they're not alone. And, with Alex and Katie, they've been through something similar before in, 2008. And, they went into crisis mode pretty quickly. And so, I observed that, but then our members benefited from that process as well, because we started having crisis calls. So one of the first things that we did was call in someone to, talk about legal issues that were coming up because of the quarantine and, legislation that was being passed, and making sure that as soon as we had any kind of information that we were relaying it to our members in a timely manner, so that they were as informed as they possibly could be and make really concrete decisions based on facts and data versus making decisions based on fear.
Awesome. And you touched on something that I feel like is a really important thing for us to talk about, because we were not outside of the impact of everything that happened. And specifically in those early days, and Alex has been really transparent about this, so I feel comfortable talking about it. There was a lot of discussion between Alex, Katie, and the rest of the leadership team about what we were going to do, how we were going to provide support to our members, whether that was an entirely new product, whether we were going to abandon some things. There was a lot of, and early on, it felt very reactive. It felt very like we need to get out in front of this. We need to, make all of these things. Hayley, can you talk about kind of what the catalyst was for you helping Alex and Katie kind of get things back on track and maybe helping guide the entire leadership team? What were those things that we really stuck to and that got us pointed in the right direction, coming out of the first initial, drop off of members, all the things that we saw very early on? What was the catalyst for change for us?
I think the systems and processes that we have in place right now provide us the stability and the ability in order to make changes and make them quickly and effectively when they're needed. So because we work in the Sharfen cadence and we work in our systems, it actually gives us the tools right there to support us during times just like this. Makes it really easy to go and evaluate what our current 90-day targets are, our 30-day goals, and understanding where we may need to pivot and adjust. And like Deanna was saying, we really looked and listened to our clients and what it is that their needs were, and understanding how can we best support them, and also thinking of what our issues were, because what things that we were going through and what was coming up for us, we knew were going to be pain points for our members. And that was really important for us to be able to help communicate that to them and support them through that transition and that process and understanding how to handle those situations. And I think in terms of making changes and figuring out how we make changes, it really was looking at the waterfall, understanding what was important for us to keep doing and what just wasn't important anymore because it wasn't critical. And then understanding too what the needs of our clients were and who was coming at us and what they were asking us. And we really listened. We took in everything that they were saying and that they were wanting and needing. And that's how we made our choices. And it was really easy to do because we had the basis and the foundation of our systems and processes to support those decisions.
Awesome. Deanna, I want to ask you something similar because you kind of have your finger on the pulse of everything that's happening in our membership and with the amazing entrepreneurs that we work with. When did you start to see a shift in our membership? And kind of take me to the moment when things started to maybe shift for the better.
Well, a big part of that, Eddie, was, with us launching a new program level. And it's interesting because the foundation program level was kind of something, if you think about like radar and you've got blips on the radar and you've got things that are on the really outer edges of the radar, it was something that was out there, but it had not really been, it wasn't a priority, it wasn't a focus. And everything that happened, I feel like it caused an acceleration of change. And so it really, and just like Hayley said, in listening to what our members were saying, listening to the people who were getting on calls saying that they wanted to work with us, it was clear that something there had to change. And by having that different program level, it allowed us to continue to support members who may have been forced to leave for whatever reason, and so for me to be able to have that way to support people, in a different way was really powerful. And I think that one of the most powerful things that Alex provided in all of this has been the crisis specific trainings that he's done for our members. But what's interesting is that while we say it's crisis trainings, I'm like, yeah, this stuff could be used at any point in time. Because regardless of whether or not there's a pandemic, right? If you're in business, there's going to be a crisis at some point along the way. It's going to happen. And so all of the tools that he's been able to pull from and share have been really, really helpful, specifically around avatar clarity and getting really clear on who you serve, because that is something that has shifted for a lot of people in the midst of this, because you've had businesses that have been in person forced to go virtual and realize, wow, this isn't as hard as we thought it was. And this is actually a really great thing. Or businesses that have changed their methods of delivery because of going online. And so all of the things that he's been able to share and provide our members have provided, I think of it as scaffolding to the frameworks that we already have in place for our members.
That's huge. I think one of the best quotes that's come out of all of this is, crisis is accelerated change. And so the answer for us was accelerating our focus on growth and getting our mindset put back on what it means to be successful in any situation. We always orient in that direction. It's just really easy to get out of whack whenever everything goes on. That the crisis hit, it was like really tough to get perspective, and it was a matter of stepping back and gaining that perspective. Hayley, can you kind of talk about what things look like for us now? Now that we've made a pivot and we're oriented towards growth again, what do things look like from your perspective now as Director of Operations?
That's a great question, Eddie. I think during any crisis or any large pivot in a company, like we were just mentioning, there's an acceleration in the decisions that you're making and the changes that you're making in the company. And sometimes that means having to do things quickly, having to go back and reevaluate really fast. I think something that the way it looks today is that we've stabilized our business. We are able to give our clients or give our members exactly what they were asking from us and be able to support them in ways that they really needed. And for those that were going out of business or weren't able to stabilize their business, we were able to offer them something to help them in the meantime. And I think because of that, we have a renewed sense of who our avatar is and what this looks like for us longer term. And in terms of the stability of our company and our team, I think our team has been able to rally together. Everyone has stepped up to the plate and everyone has accommodated based on our needs for the last few months. And we can see this in so many ways, but in terms of our planning and everything, we're going back to how we know we're supposed to do it. So we are looking at our priorities again. We are being very, very particular about what we're committing to, very strategic about the decisions that we're making. And it's important at any given time, but especially now as we're still kind of in the midst of the crisis outcome, and we see it everywhere around us. We see it in all of our members. So it's important that the decisions that we're making are actually critical decisions. They're decisions that are going to help move us forward. They're decisions we should be focusing on, and they're priorities. And so with every single day, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about our priorities. We're talking about what do we need to be doing? What do we not need to be doing? And we're evaluating everything we're doing on that scale and on that level.
Absolutely. And I love what you said there, because it's really true. We've really gained the perspective of what it means to ride this out. And we know we're in this for the long term. We know that this is going to come in ebbs and flows. It's going to come, it's going to spike, and it's going to dip. And so we need to be prepared and set up that foundation, ironically, of what it means to be prepared to handle a crisis, going forward. And so that was awesome. Deanna, can you speak about our membership and just kind of what you're seeing in terms of growth for our members?
Oh my gosh, I love our members. I literally every day, I just count myself so lucky to do what I do, because we work with some of the coolest people on the planet who have really, are making just a massive impact in the world. And, in those it's funny because we have members who are actually having the opposite problem. Their teams have grown so quickly that they're struggling with the management of the team. Like, that's a good problem to have. One of our members found out we had $1 million month last month. I mean, things have gone through the roof for this particular business. So to see those wins from those types of things to being on a foundation call and having a member talk to me today about how our personal planning process has created such alignment and clarity for him in his life and how excited he was about that. There's just such a level of alignment in all of our content, and that with our members, we don't, of course, we focus on the growing and scaling of their business, but we also really just care about them as people and their progress and that personal side of things as well. Because, if you look at the Billionaire Code, the beginning stages are making sure that you're taking care of yourself, and that you've got a morning and evening routine, and that you are using your momentum planner, and that you're taking care of yourself. And I think that it's funny, Eddie, because our last in-person event, remember how everybody was so focused on the personal development side of things? And I think that it gives me chills now that I think about that, because that room of people, I think that event set them up to move into this period of time so much stronger than had they not gotten that message at the event, because it all goes hand in hand. And you can't just worry about one side of a person. You have to worry about the whole side of a person. And I think that that's the biggest thing that our community brings from us as a team, and then with the members that we get to work with.
Man, that's so powerful. I want to thank you both for jumping on and just joining me for this conversation today. The perspective that both of you provide for everything that not only happened in our company, but that we are observing in the market and with entrepreneurship in general is just really powerful. And so thank you for taking time out of your schedules to sit down and talk to me. And I want to say a special thank you to Alex and Katie for letting us take over the podcast for an episode. I know it's probably a little bit disorienting for Alex, but it's going to be awesome. I'm really excited about it. And for anybody listening, if you're ready to orient yourself towards growth and take hold of just this massive opportunity that we're seeing in the present world today, we're ready to help you. Deanna mentioned it. We look at entrepreneurship very holistically. Entrepreneurship is not something that you do. It's part of who you are. And Deanna works directly with over 200 members in our coaching programs who are getting into momentum in their life and in their business. And we want to help you do the exact same thing. So if you're ready to take the next steps, go to predictablebusinesssolutions.com to get started and let us help you pivot and predict your success. It's predictablebusinesssolutions.com. We'll see you there.